It is my singular honor to welcome you on behalf of the National Democratic Congress to today's press conference, which is actually an emergency press conference. We thank you for honoring our invitation at such short notice, and we are grateful for our continuous collaboration towards upholding the principles of probity and accountability on the part of duty bearers, values which the founder of the great NDC and the founder of Ghana's Fourth Republic stood and fought for. Ladies and gentlemen, as the entire nation was united in grief over the passing of a man who was noted for being an avowed anti-corruption campaigner and an unrepentant bastion of justice, probity, and accountability, the fight against corruption under President Akufo-Addo received its final nail in the coffin on Monday, 16th November 2020, following the sudden resignation of the Special Prosecutor, Martin ABK Amidu. The Ghanaian people were later to be treated to the very chilling and confounding details of why the Special Prosecutor decided to call it quits, and how President Akufo-Addo has been frustrating the Office of Special Prosecutor through various actions and inactions that have conspired to make the sacred functions of that anti-corruption institution untenable. Indeed, the NDC has also taken notice of the lame and pathetic rationalization of President Akufo-Addo and the MPP, proffered through a wishy-washy statement signed by his cousin, that's the president's cousin and executive secretary, in a desperate attempt to save face. We and the vast majority of the Ghanaian people choose to treat President Akufo-Addo's desperate post-facto rationalizations with the contempt they deserve. Many were those, including some of us, who saw this day coming, given the fact that the Office of Special Prosecutor was ostensibly supposed to fight corruption, which has become arguably the greatest achievement of President Akufo-Addo. It was only a matter of time before the subject of corruption set the OSP and President Akufo-Addo on a collision course. Lo and behold, this is exactly what happened. And unsurprisingly, corruption has prevailed over the Special Prosecutor, Martin Amidu, forcing him to abandon his office. We are saddened to observe that under the leadership of President Akufo-Addo, corruption has become such a monstrous force, devouring every force which dares to stand in his way. When we speak of corruption in Ghana today, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking of a canker supervised by President Akufo-Addo himself, with the active participation of his family, friends, cronies, and appointees, all of whom are scrambling and jostling for their share of the national booty. Distinguished friends, when in the year 2016, President Akufo-Addo was being presented to the Ghanaian electorate as incorruptible, we in the NDC, and I believe other discerning Ghanaians, knew that was a war package fraud. Today, Ghanaians have come to know our president, for whom he really is. a walking contradiction, pretending to fight corruption, whilst at the same time fighting and frustrating anyone who dares to expose or question the stinking corruption he is superintending over. The fact of the matter is that the Office of Special Prosecutor was never set up by President Akufo-Addo out of a genuine will to fight corruption. This position that we in the NDC have always espoused was grounded on the fact that from the very outset, President Akufo-Addo conceived of this office as one to be used to spite his political opponents while protecting his own, who are busy plundering the resources of our beloved country. This view is buttressed by the very opening paragraph of Mr. Amidu's letter of resignation, in which he reveals that his letter of appointment, a simple letter of appointment as special prosecutor, was issued on 30th January 2020 and only delivered to him 2 years after he had been appointed on 5th February 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, that President Akufo-Addo would issue a letter of appointment to the special prosecutor in January 2020, 2 clear years after the pomp and pageantry that greeted the supposed outdooring of the special prosecutor's appointment on 10 January 2018, speaks volumes of President Akufo-Addo's lip service to the fight against corruption. Akin to taking off a bear's feathers and asking for it to be identified, President Akufo-Addo adored a special prosecutor in January 2018, confined him to a 3-bedroom office in Laboni after denying him office accommodation for close to 2 years, gave him a few secondary staff, and tasked him to fight corruption. What is even sad is the fact that President Akufo-Addo refused to pay the special prosecutor Martin Amidu and his deputy for over 2 years that they worked in that office. Clearly, to all intents and purposes, President Akufo-Addo set up the special prosecutor's office to score cheap political capital and nothing more. As Mr. Martin Amidu himself has made us aware in his letter of resignation, President Akufo-Addo has deliberately frustrated and interfered in the discharge of his mandate until he could no longer take kindly to the president's interference in his investigations into the stinking Ejapa royalties transaction. Indeed, as a now former special prosecutor observed, President Akufo-Addo had been under the delusion that the special prosecutor would act as his poodle to cover the monumental rot and corruption he is supervising. Unbeknownst to Mr. Martin Amidu, we have always known that President Akufo-Addo's avowed fight against corruption was just a charade. And if there was anyone in this country or in the media who still believed or hoped that President Akufo-Addo sought to fight corruption by setting up the Office of Special Prosecutor, I am quite sure that person would have given up by now. Only last week, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we addressed you on our observations relative to the risk of corruption assessments conducted by the Special Prosecutor on the Ejapa royalties scam. At that press briefing, our General Secretary stated categorically that President Akufo-Addo is refusing to give up on the stinking Ejapa scam. Hence, his insistence that all discussions on this subject should be deferred until after the upcoming election. True to our word, and as corroborated by the special prosecutor in his resignation letter, President Akufo-Addo had asked the special prosecutor, Mr. Martin Amidu, to shelve his corruption risk assessment report. As has become the nature of President Akufo-Addo, this so-called review, he had asked him to shelve his report and allow him review the Ejapa agreement after this year's election. That is in the unlikely events that he wins. Now, as has become the nature of President Akufo-Addo, this so-called review was to afford him and his cousin, the finance minister, the opportunity to whitewash their crimes in the Ejapa deal, which had been badly exposed by the special prosecutor's risk of corruption and anti-corruption assessment reports. As if this interference in the Ejapa royalties investigations was not enough, the special prosecutor tells the whole world how President Akufo-Addo once again invited him to his office on the 1st of November 2020 and directed him to accept and incorporate into the risk of corruption assessment report comments from his cousin and finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who was himself the subject of the assessment. Friends, even more scandalous was the fact that President Akufo-Addo is said to have requested the special prosecutor to be allowed to, as it were, handle the Ejapa matter, whatever that means. We are only learning this evening from a leaked tape of an interview between Martin Amidu and CTFM's Umaru Sanda that President Akufo-Addo's cousin and finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta actually went to the house of the special prosecutor at the time he was conducting the corruption risk assessment on the Ejapa matter to influence his work. We are going to play that tape to you. Distinguished friends from the media, that President Akufo-Addo has cemented his dubious reputation as a corruption clearing agent is no longer in doubt. Since assuming office as president, Akufo-Addo's only way of fighting corruption has been to sweep serious crimes under the carpet and declare his errant appointees, his corrupt appointees, innocent even before being investigated. Mr. Martin Amidu has stated in black and white in his resignation letter how President Akufo-Addo assumed the role of a judge in his own cause in a matter he himself has been indicted relative to the excessive executive approval he gave the stinky Ejapa deal on the 24th of March 2020 and his assent of the Minerals Income Investment Amendment Act 2020 Act 1024 with the aim of giving retroactive effect to the parliamentary approval of same on 14th August 2020. Why has President Akufo-Addo been this desperate in the Ejapa matter? How could President Akufo-Addo, a man who swore to protect the public purse, a man who swore to defend the cause of right, be this corrupt? Friends from the media, to say that President Akufo-Addo's so-called fight against corruption has been lost is an understatement. Today, every critical voice of dissent that dares to talk about the unprecedented corruption under this government has been suppressed. For the MPP Akufo-Addo government to have gone to the extent of threatening Mr. Martin Amidu with death for undertaking the Ejapa Royalties Limited Transactions Anti-Corruption Assessment speaks volumes about President Akufo-Addo's determination to fight anyone who dares to fight corruption in his government. The NDC has been alarmed and appalled by revelations by Martin Amidu about threats of robbery, threats of arson, and threats of death on his life, following the release of his corruption risk assessment report on the Japa scam. We are deeply concerned, we are deeply worried about the path that President Akufo-Addo and his government is taking this country on. I mean, you appoint a man as special prosecutor, you pass an act of parliament, and you give him a responsibility to fight corruption. The man discharges this responsibility professionally. We are not saying that his assessment or investigations and the findings arising from same are sacrosanct. We are not saying that Martin Amidu is a court of competent jurisdiction. We are not saying that he's a perfect man. He can be disagreed with. He can even be challenged. But to get to this level, where the man says that his life is in danger, elements in this government are threatening to burn his house. They are threatening to kill him. They are threatening to rob him. Then this matter is no longer funny. It is no longer business as usual. It is a very serious matter now, because we have never seen this level of treachery and terror being unleashed on any anti-corruption crusader in this country before, at least under the fourth Republican, democratic period. From 1992 till now, we've never seen something like this before. And so we are deeply concerned about this tape, which was leaked on social media just this afternoon. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have not listened to this tape and do not appreciate facts I am alluding to, I would like to play this tape for you. It's I'm told, 11 minutes tape. Because of time, we cannot play the entire tape. So we will skip and play for you the relevant portions so that you and the people of this country can hear for yourselves what President Akufo-Addo and the MPP are doing to Mr. Martin Amidu for discharging his duties as special prosecutor professionally and for conducting a corruption risk assessment into the Japa scam, in which he indicts the president himself, his cousin, the finance minister, Ken Oforiatta, and their cronies for acts of corruption and potential money laundering. Let's listen to the tape now.
Ghanaians would want to know how you are taking your retirement, and when you say nobody should push you, who can really speak to these people who are pushing you to stop?
Well, I'm speaking to you, and they should tell their people, their robbery briefs to be telling us about me to stop before I decide to respond. And when I decide to respond, I will do so with a fear of favor. And as I told you, even to the extent that if my life would be laid for speaking the truth and defending the Constitution of Ghana as by law established, I will do so. Now, as a private citizen, nobody can control me, and I have a constitutional right to defend myself and the Constitution of Ghana as by law established. Corruption and corruption-related offenses are forbidden by the Constitution, and assessment of anti-corruption is something allowable under the Constitution, and it must not be subsumed under personal attacks. It must stop.
How is the citizen vigilante doing though?
Well, now I'm talking to you as citizen vigilante, and that is what we should remember.
Thank you for speaking to us.
Let me tell you one thing.
Yes.
All these threats about begging me, armed robbery, begging my house, I'm aware. I tried to call Kandaba, he didn't take it. And I got a former national security advisor to contact him and tell him. And I know the persons involved, and I named them. I reserve it for the inside.
They are bagging your
I put
house.
my life on the Republic of Ghana, and the president will be responsible for anything that happens to me.
They are bagging your house.
I said, very
Okay.
They will rob me.
Okay.
They will burn my house.
People are planning to do that.
Look, I'm telling you that the intelligence is there. And I called the Minister for National Security, he didn't take it. But I got a former National Security advisor to speak to him. And this fact is not known. And I'm saying that the President will be responsible for anything that happens to me.
Are you safe, sir?
What? I don't care. I'm a Ghanaian. I don't see anything. As long as I said, to die in the cause of rising corruption is what I started with President General Lawrence in resistance to President Amidu. And I'm not going to do it because some people think that they can threaten me. I don't give a damn about that.
We wish you all the best, sir. And Ghanaians will be waiting to hear you respond to some of the issues that were raised by the presidency when you deal with it.
Well, I have told you that if the news come, I will respond. As to what I will do, I will reserve that to myself. But as I said, whatever happens to me, I live my life on the Republic of Ghana, and the President has a constitutional duty to promote, to protect. I don't need any security at my house or to follow me. And anybody who is an attempt, he will have himself to blame.
Since you are a citizen vigilante, should members of the public who want to come and protect you do so?
My friend, people have called and want to even come and travel rules from Baku and all that. And I've told them that these are all what they are hearing are not true. Because as a citizen of Ghana, I'm entitled to say my mind and defend the Constitution. The fact that you are a government doesn't mean that when you are dissatisfied with the report, you go after the person of the bill. Look, the Minister of Finance has been my friend for years. What will I do for him? When I was writing the report, didn't he come to this house? Was he not here on the 21st of October? What did I tell you? Why is he now telling us information about me and my years and all that? Should I come out? Let's stop it.
Okay,
And
sir.
I said, let's stop it before we want
I
the public.
think this can suffice for now.
Thank you
very much. Martin Amidu says that what is happening, the vilification, the insults being heaped on him by government communicators, the president himself, the finance minister, and their lackeys, is just corruption fighting back. Then he tells you that his life is in danger. They are threatening to burn his house. They are threatening to assassinate him. And he says that he's laid down his life to serve in this country, and that if anything happens to him, we should hold President Akufo-Addo responsible. He's even tried to report these threats to the Minister for National Security, but he has refused to pick his call. And so, like I said, we are not saying that Martin Amidu is perfect and that his works are sacrosanct. If you disagree with him, disagree with him. And state your reasons for disagreeing with him and allow the good people of this country to judge. Allow institutions to work. Why do you threaten the man with death? How low has this government sunk? How low? Can this even happen in Afghanistan or Syria? How low have they sunk? Almost 28 years of having multi-party democracy and building strong institutions. Is this how low we have sunk under President Akufo-Addo? When some of us talk about these things, people call us all sorts of names. You don't respect. You're a young man, slow down, this and that. Now it is happening to Martin Amidu. Everyone is afraid to speak. Everyone is afraid to speak truth to power, to constructively criticize President Akufo-Addo for the corruption he is supervising. Because they are afraid of their lives, they are afraid they will come after them and all that. But we are not afraid. And we will continue to expose the rot. But ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply worried and concerned that City FM, which conducted this interview, chose not to air the interview. I mean, how do you call a special prosecutor who has resigned for an interview, he grants you an interview, and makes these chilling revelations? Revelations about threats of death, threats against his life. And you decide to shelve it. Who intervened in the matter? I mean, we will not question the editorial discretion or policy of City FM. They are a respectable media organization. They are our partners. We respect them. I believe their reporters are here. You know, but just like they criticize political parties when they think we are doing the wrong things, they are also not above reproach and can be criticized. And today, as the largest opposition party, we are criticizing them that it is absolutely wrong for you to uncover such damning, such chilling revelations from the former special prosecutor and decide to shelve it because some people think that it will give President Akufo-Addo and the NPP a bad name. And so, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we wish to state that the attempt by the Akufo-Addo government to stop City FM, which conducted this interview, from airing same, is in itself a perverse act of corruption and confirms what we have known all along about this government's manipulation of the news, this government's manipulation of the media. And here I'm not talking about all, some. We call on the Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, and the National Media Commission to launch a full-scale investigation into this matter as it portends grave danger for press freedoms. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we've been alarmed and appalled by revelations by Martin Amidu about threats of robbery, arson, and death on his life following the release of his corruption risk assessment report on the Ejapa matter. Martin Amidu, at this point, needs our collective prayer and protection against the vile threats directed at his life, since, according to him, the sudden demise of our founder, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, has removed the only protection he enjoyed from such threats and wicked plans of certain, people in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, it is quite sad that President Akufo-Addo, the self-acclaimed incorruptible president who rode on the back of an anti-corruption campaign to power, is today a fighter of corruption fighters. That is who he is, a fighter of corruption fighters. The removal of the Auditor General, Mr. Daniel Yao Domelevo, for his relentless fight against corruption, the harassment of investigative journalists such as Anazari Miyawa Nas, Manasseh Azure Awuni, Edward Adeti, and other anti-corruption campaigners, and the sad and gruesome murder of Ahmed Swale of Tiger PI fame cast the most undesirable record of any democratically elected president who is so determined to dim the torch of accountability. Never, and I repeat, never in the history of this country have we witnessed this level of terror, treachery, and cruelty being unleashed on anti-corruption crusaders who deserve to be honored and celebrated for their good works. Distinguished friends, the NDC is deeply concerned about this stress on the life of the former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu. Not because he is our friend, no, or not because we are seeking any political capital from this matter. We are concerned because what is happening to him has happened to others. It is happening to him because when it happened to others in time past, we kept quiet. And so if we allow what is happening to him to stand and to succeed, we will be next. And that is why we are concerned, because we need to protect our institutions, and we need to defend and protect anti-corruption crusaders, whether or not we disagree with them. And so we wish to serve notice here and now to President Akufo-Addo and the MPP that the Ghanaian people will not sit down and watch them extend their wickedness to Mr. Martin Amidu. Therefore, should anything happen to him, President Akufo-Addo will be held responsible, as Martin Amidu himself has publicly stated. Ghanaians will not sit aloof for President Akufo-Addo and his wicked and treacherous hirelings in government to take the life of Mr. Martin Amidu, as they did to the late Ahmed Swale. We call on all voices of conscience in moral society, traditional authorities and civil society to rise up and condemn the tyranny and totalitarianism being supervised by President Akufo-Addo under the ex-Wal NDC Mills administration and the NDC Mahama regime. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to this carefully. Martin Amidu, under these two NDC governments, went about his anti-corruption activities in peace. Even though we disagreed with him on many issues, neither President Mills of blessed memory, nor President John Dramani Mahama, nor their appointees attempted to interfere with Martin Amidu's work as citizen vigilante in any way. No one attempted to influence him or induce him in any way. No one visited his house to induce him to cover up their crimes. And no one, more importantly, threatened him with death, arson, or robbery. So why is this man being threatened with arson, robbery, and death by the MPP for professionally discharging his statutory duties as special prosecutor? It is evil to appoint a man as special prosecutor, refuse to pay him for 2 years, deliberately starve his office of the basic resources necessary for his work, and when he indicts you for corruption, turn around and threaten him with death. That is the height of wickedness. And like I said, it is sad that this country has sunk this low under the watch of President Akufo-Addo. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, is it not perplexing, is it not surprising that this same Martin Amidu was hailed by President Akufo-Addo and the MPP as an avowed anti-corruption crusader while in opposition? Didn't they celebrate his appointment as special prosecutor to mean the single most important commitment of Akufo-Addo to the fight against corruption in the history of Ghana? Is it not this same Martin Amidu who was hailed by the MPP as a citizen vigilante, whose word was a gospel truth in the past? What has suddenly changed about the man today? What has suddenly changed about the man today? That President Akufo-Addo and his surrogates will turn around and vilify him while branding everything he says as lies. Since when did he become a liar? Since when did Saint Martin Amidu, in the view of President Akufo-Addo, become a liar? Did he become a liar when he indicted him in the Japan matter? Hypocrites. That is what our friends in the NPP are. But you see, the Ghanaian people are discerning enough to know that Mr. Amidu and President Akufo-Addo, to know that between Martin Amidu and President Akufo-Addo, it is the latter, that is Martin Amidu. No, that is President Akufo-Addo, who lied his way into government and continues to thrive on lies. Ladies and gentlemen, the corruption risk assessment report of the special prosecutor has confirmed our long-held position that the stinking Ejapa deal is fraught with cronyism, corruption, greed, and potential money laundering. The mandate agreement violated the Public Procurement Law, the Public Financial Management Act, and Article 181, Clause 5 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, hence null and void. If President Akufo-Addo cannot suspend or prosecute his cousin and Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and his acolyte Charles Adubwai for their roles in the Japa scam due to his glaring complicity in the matter, the least he can and should do is to stop harassing Martin Amidu and rather retrieve for the country the over 240 billion cedis, equivalent to $4 million, that his government has illegally paid under the transaction to African Legal Associates, a law chamber owned by President Akufo-Addo's cousin Gabi Ochredakon, Data Bank, which is owned by another cousin of his, Ken Ofori-Atta, and their foreign collaborators. We need our money now. If he cannot prosecute them, if he cannot suspend them, if he cannot dismiss them for obvious reasons, if he can't do that because he himself is complicit, for which reason the special prosecutor has indicted him, no problem. Stop harassing an innocent man. If you disagree with him, state your disagreements and allow the people of this country to judge. Stop harassing him and rather go after your cousins and their companies and retrieve for the country the over 240 billion you have paid to them illegally. Because we need our money now. Friends from the media, Ghanaians today are having to deal with one corruption scandal per day, with state-sponsored TV reaching a crescendo in the final days of the Akufo-Addo government. Unprecedented culture of state capture has become the mainstay of President Akufo-Addo, as we have witnessed in the case of My Sister's Keeper Foundation, where the daughters of President Akufo-Addo have been hiding behind a so-called charity organization to extort monies from state agencies. The capture of the duty-free shop and the CIP lounge at the newly built Terminal 3 at the Kutuka International Airport for the family and friends of President Akufo-Addo, and the doling out of GMPC cash to the wife of President Akufo-Addo, the First Lady, under the pretext of charity work. Ghanaians today are left in no doubt as to the fact that President Akufo-Addo is the most corrupt president in Ghana's history, who has been using subterfuge and intimidation to conceal his true nature. But thank God, his cup is now full, as all these latest revelations are signs of the end of his corrupt tenure and the judgment of God against his misrule. Coming events, they say, cast their shadow, and the defeat of President Akufo-Addo on 7th December 2020 is now glaring. No amount of threats or intimidation against political opponents, the media, CSOs, will stop our collective resolve to expose the stinking corruption being supervised by President Akufo-Addo and his family and friends cabal, as the Ghanaian people wait with bated breath to kick he and his corrupt government out of office and restore truth, decency, and honesty to the presidency. Thank you very much for coming, ladies and gentlemen. We are grateful.